Have you ever noticed that some women walk into a room and without saying a word, the air changes? There's a stillness, a gravity, a power that seems to hum beneath the surface of everything they do. It's not loud, it's not showy, but it's undeniable. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you feel it, as if her presence has been shaped by something deeper than ordinary experience. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the Psyphos Depth channel and join our growing community of seekers and deep thinkers. If this message stirs something in you, leave a comment and let us know where you're watching from. These stories travel farther when they connect us. Now let's begin. There is a kind of woman who has been through more than most people can imagine and still chooses to love. Not because she hasn't been broken, but because she's learned how to turn every scar into a sword. Her pain didn't pass through her and leave her weaker. It made her luminous, sacred, chosen. But this isn't a fairy tale. These women weren't handed wisdom by the stars. It was earned, often through silence, solitude, and sorrow. Through years of holding everyone else together while wondering who would catch her when she fell. There's something holy about the woman who was expected to shatter, but instead sharpened. You know her not by the smile she shows the world, but by the fire behind her eyes. She's the one who's walked through betrayal and didn't let it close her heart. The one who's forgiven without receiving apologies, who kept moving forward even when her knees buckled in private. She doesn't wear strength as armor. It lives in her bones now. This is the mark of a chosen woman, not a perfect life, but a powerful transformation. Her scars don't whisper defeat. They roar resilience. And when the world told her she should be bitter, she chose to become better. Like the woman who cried herself to sleep for months, only to rise and lead others into healing. Or the daughter who felt invisible growing up, but now speaks truth that lights up the rooms she enters. These aren't just wounds. These are witnesses to the kind of soul that doesn't just survive, but transmutes. A scar that turned into a sword. That's the first hidden mark. You won't see it at first glance. You'll notice it in how she listens, how she doesn't rush to speak, because she's already heard 1,000 unspoken things. You'll see it in her eyes, tired but fearless. You'll feel it in her presence, still but unmoving. She doesn't need applause because her life has already earned alignment. You don't learn that from ease. You learn it from walking through hell and realizing you never belonged to the fire. That's the kind of strength you can't fake. It's the quiet, sacred kind. It doesn't need an audience. It's content to just be. And if you've ever sat with your own sorrow in the dark, wiped tears before anyone noticed, kept believing when nothing gave you reason to, then you carry this mark too. You are not broken. You are becoming. Not cursed, carved. The pain did not come to stay. It came to shape. The second mark is more elusive, yet just as powerful. A restlessness that never seems to go away. Even when everything on the outside looks fine, career, relationships, routine, there's a quiet discontent humming beneath it all. Not because you're ungrateful, but because your soul knows there's more. This isn't boredom. It's not ambition. It's a sacred stirring, placed there by something higher. A divine unease that whispers, this is not the whole story. Something in you knows you weren't born for surface living, that the life you're in might be good, but it's not aligned. You may feel this in a job that drains you even though it looks impressive on paper, in a relationship that's stable but shallow, in a circle of friends who know your name, but not your truth. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a whisper in the background, a tension in your chest, a dream you keep having but can't explain. This is the call to purpose, the call that doesn't shout, but tugs. It comes when you're brushing your teeth, or driving alone at night, or lying awake wondering if this is really all there is. You try to silence it with gratitude lists, with logic, with shoulds, but it persists, not to torment you, to summon you. You were never meant to settle. You were meant to stretch. That's what Ava discovered. On paper, she had it all: a loving partner, a respected job, a supportive community. But something inside her kept pulling. She didn't understand it at first. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't burnout. It was something deeper. A call. And when she finally stopped ignoring it, her life unfolded in ways she never expected. She started a healing circle for women who had been through trauma, a space that didn't exist until she made it exist. That restlessness wasn't a flaw. It was direction, a sacred invitation to build what she was missing. Her discomfort didn't destroy her. It revealed her. The same might be true for you. If you feel out of place in the life you've built, it doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're being led. The discomfort you feel in the presence of comfort, that's destiny knocking. And the longer you ignore it, the louder it becomes. First in your heart, then in your body, then in your world. The chosen ones often feel like misfits before they realize they're just pioneers. If your spirit has been unsettled lately, not because something is wrong, but because something is waiting, then perhaps you too are being called into more. And the world may not understand, but you don't need their permission to rise. There's a quiet ache that comes with seeing too much, feeling too deeply, and not being able to look away. That's the third hidden mark, a kind of sacred sensitivity that doesn't come from fragility, but from spiritual wiring. Chosen women don't just notice pain, they carry it. Not because they want to, but because they were born with hearts calibrated to compassion in a world addicted to numbness. It's a strange kind of burden, to feel things others ignore, to cry over wounds that don't belong to you, to look into a stranger's eyes and feel their heaviness like your own. And still, you stay open. You still love. You still show up, even when it hurts. The world calls it oversensitive. Heaven calls it sacred technology. These women are often the ones others confide in without knowing why. They become emotional anchors for families, friend groups, even communities. People pour their pain into them like they're vessels that can never overflow. But what few understand is that behind the kindness, behind the listening, behind the warmth, is someone carrying a quiet weight that no one else can see. Their empathy is not weakness. It is their assignment. You'll see it in how they cry during movies or while hearing someone's story. You'll notice it when they pause before responding, not because they're unsure, but because they're calculating how their words might land. Their energy is prayerful, even when they're silent. And their tears? Those are not breakdowns. They are intercession. There are nights they've stayed up praying for people who never knew their name. Moments they've felt heartbreak that wasn't their own. And still, they rise. Still, they forgive. Still, they give love without receipts. It's not because they don't feel the toll. It's because they believe healing others is holy work. But this depth comes at a cost. The more sensitive they are, the more likely they are to draw the broken, the wounded, the lost. Strangers open up to them. Friends lean on them too heavily. and sometimes they are left drained, alone, and unseen. Because the world loves their light, but rarely honors the oil it took to burn that bright. Still, they love. Still, they serve. Still, they pray. Not for applause, not for attention, but because something in them refuses to turn away from suffering. Because they know what it feels like to be unseen, and they refuse to let others feel that same abandonment. Their emotional depth is not an accident. It's not a flaw. It's a divine design. And yet, it often makes them a target. That's the fourth mark, unprovoked attacks. She carries a light so sharp, so pure, that it unsettles the shadows around her. She doesn't have to speak. Her energy alone disrupts. She walks into rooms and systems start to shift. People who haven't met their own darkness feel threatened by hers simply because she knows how to hold it. She didn't ask for the fight, but her very existence provokes resistance. Because when you're aligned with purpose, you become spiritually visible, and not just to those who admire you, but also to forces that oppose your mission. Call it energy. Call it warfare. But you'll feel it in your relationships, your career, even your own inner world. The more aligned you are, the more the misaligned will try to shake your foundation. They may slander you, misunderstand you, isolate you, not because you're wrong, but because you're right in ways they can't name. You become a mirror, and people don't always like what they see reflected back. But here's the truth. Darkness never attacks what isn't a threat. The storm doesn't rage unless something powerful is rising. And if the attacks have intensified, it may be confirmation, not of your failure, but of your sacred fire. You were not meant to walk quietly through this world. You were meant to wake it up. That's why your obedience feels expensive. Why your intuition makes people uncomfortable. Why your compassion is often mistaken for naivety, until it isn't. Because there's nothing more dangerous to spiritual stagnation than a woman who walks in truth, who speaks with clarity, who protects her peace like it's holy ground. Because it is. And yes, it's exhausting. Yes, it can feel lonely. That's the fifth mark. Isolation. She didn't choose to walk alone, but when heaven sets you apart, it doesn't always surround you with company. Sometimes it gives you silence, not as punishment, but as preparation. Because in the quiet, your spirit sharpens. In the absence of validation, your soul learns to listen to a different voice, your own. You begin to see who you are without applause, without roles, without the need to be anything for anyone. Chosen women often feel like outsiders, like black sheep, like the ones who think too much, feel too much, question too much. And in a world that fears depth, that can be isolating. But isolation isn't abandonment, it's alignment. When the crowd walks one way and your spirit turns another, that's not rebellion. It's remembrance. It's your soul choosing wholeness over acceptance, truth over performance, calling over comfort. Because God does his deepest work in the shadows. He hides what he's shaping. He covers what he's refining. And if you're in a season where no one sees you, where nothing seems to be moving, where you feel like you're speaking a language no one else understands, that doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're being rooted. And roots don't grow in the spotlight. They grow in the dark. It's in the darkness, beneath the noise, beyond the reach of recognition, that the most sacred growth begins. Not all transformation happens in the light. In fact, most of it doesn't. The sixth hidden mark is one most people will never see. Growth in the dark. A chosen woman doesn't always rise with fanfare. She often blooms in silence, her strength forming where no one is watching. Her roots go deep before anything ever appears above the surface. And while the world is obsessed with visibility, she knows that what is hidden is often what's holy. She's been planted, not buried. There's a big difference. Burial means death, but planting? That means a resurrection is coming. The darkness isn't punishment, it's preparation. Think of Ruth, loyal in her grief. Her faithfulness didn't make headlines, but it made legacy. Or Joseph, whose dreams were birthed in a prison long before he ever reached a palace. Their transformation wasn't instant. It was slow, obscure, sacred. Like the seed that disappears beneath the soil only to later bloom into something no one expected. You may feel like nothing is happening right now, like the waiting has no end, like the silence is suffocating. But the silence is where God speaks clearest, not in chaos but in the stillness, not in applause but in alignment. You are not being ignored, you are being formed. Every unseen moment of discipline, every tear cried in private, every small act of courage no one noticed, they are not forgotten. They are building something unshakable. Because if your root system isn't deep, your growth won't last. A tree that grows too fast with shallow roots will topple the first time the wind blows. But a tree planted in secret, nourished by solitude and watered by divine intention, that tree endures. That tree bends, but doesn't break. So if you feel hidden, don't rush to escape it. You are being prepared for something visibility cannot sustain. When the time comes, and you finally emerge, you won't just be visible, you'll be ready. And when you bloom, you will not bloom for applause. You will bloom for purpose. The seventh mark is what makes the rest possible. It's not power, not beauty, not perfection. It's joy. But not the fleeting kind. Not the Instagram-filtered, good vibes only kind. No, it's unshakable joy in dry places. It's the kind of joy that survives when everything else falls apart. The kind that whispers, "I'm still here," in the middle of grief. The kind that refuses to be extinguished, even when life seems to have stolen every reason to smile. This joy isn't performance, it's defiance. When the world says you should be bitter, she laughs. When circumstances say you should be broken, she dances. When betrayal and heartbreak show up, she still finds something to praise. Not because she's ignoring reality, but because her joy is rooted in truth, not appearances. Her smile isn't a mask, it's a weapon. Her laughter is not hollow, it's holy. Like the woman in Proverbs 31 who laughs without fear of the future. Not because the future is guaranteed, but because her foundation is. Her joy is not tied to circumstances. It is anchored in sovereignty. It's not a fragile emotion. It's a spiritual stance. And when you ask her how she can still smile, still serve, still love after all she's been through, she won't list her achievements. She'll simply say, "I chose not to let the darkness win." Her joy is generational. It breaks curses. It heals timelines. It inspires without needing an audience. And the enemy can't steal what he didn't give. That's why her joy is dangerous. It doesn't just sustain her, it testifies. It declares, "You didn't defeat me. You deepened me." This is not blind positivity, it's soul memory, a knowing that nothing is wasted, that even the desert has its rain, that even the night holds stars. Her joy is not the absence of pain, it's the decision to rise anyway. And that, more than anything, is what reveals who's been chosen. Not how loud she prays, not how perfect she looks, but how consistently she chooses joy when everything in her life gives her permission to choose despair. These are the women who don't just survive storms, they sing through them. Who don't just hold light, they are light. Women who feel deeply, suffer quietly, forgive relentlessly, and rise repeatedly. They are not saints. They are not untouchable. They are not supernatural. They are witnesses of what grace can do, of what perseverance can become, of what happens when you refuse to let pain have the final word. And if you've seen yourself in these stories, in the scars, the restlessness, the empathy, the isolation, then maybe you're not here by accident. Maybe you're not just watching this message. Maybe you're remembering it. Because chosen women don't need to be told who they are. They just need to be reminded. You are not broken. You are being built. You are not behind. You are being prepared. You are not too much. You are finally becoming who you were always meant to be. This world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more presence, more softness with strength, more joy with roots, more women who choose to carry light, even when they've walked through the darkest places alone. If that's you, then remember this. You don't have to prove anything. You already are everything.